Today, I'm going to tell you everything I love and hate about my Google Pixel Fold. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. This is my Google Pixel Fold. It's the latest version. It's the 256 gigabyte version. I think there's like a half terabyte version too. I think they're basically the same, but you can upgrade the space on it. Okay, so that's not really a big thing that I was going to cover today, but that may be one thing that I don't like about it. But I have been using this phone here for a couple months, so I wanted to give you a list of all the things that I love about this phone and that I hate about this phone. So let's start with the stuff that I love. I want to start on the positive side because there is a lot to love with this. First of all, as you can see here, this Google Pixel Fold is, in my opinion, a pretty nice shape. Now, one of the things that is interesting here is that it is wider than the Samsung Galaxy Fold, and it's just about as wide as my iPhone 14 Pro Max. However, it's a little bit shorter. It's probably a half an inch shorter at the top. But I actually started to realize that the shorter size here doesn't leave me wanting in any way. Yes, maybe you'll lose a little bit of real estate when you're scrolling through a document, but it actually fits in the hand really nice here, and I would rather lose a little space vertically than widthwise. When things get really narrow, it's a little hard to read, but I actually really like this size. Could it be taller and still be as comfortable in my hand, easy to use? Yes, I think so, but I'm not going to knock it for that because I actually think it's a really good size. The other thing that I really like is that it is really slim, and that's kind of a problem with these foldables is that they can be really thick. Now, it's a little thicker than my iPhone, but the nice thing about this is that even though it's a little bit thicker, it feels just about right in the hand. So what they have done here is they've taken the two pieces and made them pretty thin. They have a nice little rounded edge here, so it's not too hard to get open, which I really like. So width-wise, it feels good in the hand, and thickness-wise, it feels good in the hand. The other thing I really love is that you can't see it right here, but this does have wireless charging. So I can still use all of my Qi wireless chargers. I can use my MagSafe chargers. It doesn't have the magnetic piece in here, but it will just lay on my wireless chargers and charge very quickly. The other thing that I like here, and you can see it, is this always on display. It's not on by default. I can turn it on in the settings, but it's very useful when it's sitting down here. Not super bright or easy to see necessarily under bright lights, but I can look at it right there and get the time, my next appointment, some of the notifications without having to turn it on, which is great. The other thing that I really like is the button placement for ergos. Now, one thing I want to show you is that this is the power button, right here, and the fingerprint reader, and then there's a small volume rocker right there. They are roughly the same size, so you can easily get them mixed up, but they feel really good in the hand. They fall right where you would expect them. Now, the only problem to this is, and then this is something that I hate, is that you can see this volume rocker is right about in the middle of the phone. So if you're going to use any of these little mounts, like you're going to mount this into a tripod or something, you can see here that it's going to hit that volume rocker. So what I end up having to do is I always have to mount it off to the side. And that kind of twists the phone a little bit. It's not quite as balanced. So while they're really nicely placed for ergos, when I'm holding the phone like this, they're easy for me to use in my left hand here. They're not really great for tripods. So that's kind of the trade-off. But the other nice thing is when I open it up, they are also right where my right hand would be if I want to adjust the volume there. So I think the button placement is really nice. The other thing that I really love about this are 3 login methods. So you can see we have a camera right there. I can use my face to scan myself in. I can pull up the login screen and put in a security pin, or I can put my finger on the touch sensor here and it will also log me in. So I can have all 3 methods of logging in, which my iPad does not do. My iPad will only allow me to do the code or fingerprint scan. It will not let me do the face scan, which is really inconvenient, especially when you're used to it on so many other phones. The other thing that I like are the cameras. So this apparently has a 5x optical zoom. I think my iPhone only has a 3x optical zoom, so this is much better. Now, I will say that you probably want to go in and tweak the camera settings. It always seems like it's a little yellower and richer on here than it is on my iPhone, but I really love the fact that I'm getting more optical zoom. I wish more cameras would offer that because there are sometimes when you're trying to film something far away and having that optical zoom is really nice, but I like that it has that. The other thing that I want to say here is that I really like this clean install of Android. I am not a big Android fan because every time I pick up a different phone, it's got a different skin on it, Samsung, LG, whatever. But clean Android actually is probably the most like iOS to me, and it's pretty easy to figure out when I don't have any of these other layers or features on there. So I actually like that this is from Google so that I know I'm getting a clean Android install and it just works like I know it's going to work. The other thing that I love about this is tablet mode. And really the reason that I got this was to replace my iPad mini. So instead of carrying an iPad mini, which is kind of big, bulky, I need to put in a case, I can have this. Now I can watch videos. I can read documents a lot easier. I can surf the web a lot easier. and I can fold it up and put it in my pocket. So I love the fact that this has tablet mode when I want tablet mode, and it is foldable and pocketable when I want that too. The other thing that I will say here is that it has a USB-C port on the bottom here, and if you use like a 60-watt charger or even like a 30-watt charger, man, this thing charges fast, dude. There have been times when I've looked at the phone and I've been like, oh man, 37% charged. I gotta leave here in a few minutes, and man, it kind of makes me a little uncomfortable that I'm going to take this on such a low charge. I plug it into the fast charger, do a little stuff to get ready, throw on my jacket, get my car keys, come back, unplug it, and I'm like at 60, 70, 80%. So I really love that this charges super fast. The other thing that I really love about this is its affordability. So I know that new, this thing can be 1700s, but consider a phone, a premium phone, and a tablet. If you were to buy the new iPhone 15, is it? And in the Pro Max style, that's going to cost you $1,300. Go and buy the Wi-Fi only iPad. That's going to be $600, $700. That's $2,000 of devices. You can get this for $1,700. That's actually saving you money over two separate devices here. So relatively affordable. I like this. And the other thing that I really love about this is the Google reputation. So we know that Google is not a fly-by-night. They don't necessarily chintz out on stuff. So everything that I've experienced with this has been really nice. The quality of construction, the materials, everything seems pretty nice. And so I have pretty good faith that this is going to be a good device because it's coming from Google. Now, let's get on to the stuff I hate, because there is some stuff here. First of all, this material here obviously shows a ton of fingerprints. I cleaned it up right before I went on the camera here because I didn't want to show you a bunch of smudgy fingerprints, but obviously that happens a lot. So we have a lot of smudgy material here, and it's also kind of slick. It has a little bit of texture, but it almost makes it slicker. Like this spline here has no texture. It's just smooth. And that almost is a little easier to grip because of the oils in my hand or something. So it's just very slippery, it feels like. The other thing I want to show you here, it's probably not going to be super easy to see, but right there and right there, I have a scratch right across there. Now, I have no idea what that is from, and it can be from anything. I actually don't carry keys, so I don't have a house key or an office key like a traditional key in my pocket. I just carry like a wireless key fob, so there's no keys in my pocket to scratch that up. The other thing I will say is, even though I've only had this for 2 months, I've had my iPhone for almost 2 years, and I carry that in my pocket as well, and the iPhone screen looks great. So I don't know if they use a different type of Gorilla Glass or something like that on the iPhone that's a little tougher, or if this just met an unfortunate connection to a concrete edge or something like that. But for whatever reason, the screen is scratched, visibly scratched. You can feel it even a little bit. Doesn't affect anything, feeling that the material here is just different, maybe to keep the weight down, maybe to keep it a little thinner. So I am going to actually put a screen protector on this, whereas I've never put a screen protector on my iPhone. Now, the other thing that I will say is that I mentioned here is that the camera tilts warm. Now, this is something you can adjust in post-production. Maybe it's something I can adjust in the camera settings, but when I film with my iPhone and film with this, there is a noticeable difference between the two. This just looks more yellow to me, and I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Again, it can be fixed, but I would have expected that both of these cameras would just kind of look a little bit more natural, especially given how many people have raved about the Google Pixel Fold cameras. The other thing that I want to say here is that it's kind of intentional that they made a pretty stiff hinge. And I think part of that is because, let's say you wanted to put it down like this, the hinge is going to hold this position. However, because it's a stiff hinge, what ends up happening is that it is very difficult for the phone to actually go completely flat. In fact, what you can see here is it's just got the slightest little bend. Now, it's not that big of a deal. And Google apparently says you can fold it flat. It will go all the way, and I'm just kind of muscling it here. It will fold all the way flat, but it always seems to go back naturally to just at least a few degrees of fold. There's a couple things that happen with that. One, when there's a little bit of a fold to it, you can see the seam or the fold in the screen. Not a lot. It's not a big deal. I've kind of come to just ignore it completely. But if you do fold it completely flat, that seam almost completely disappears. And in fact, when I do press it like this just a little bit while I'm holding it, it looks just like a screen. I can't see anything in it. But when it does have a little bit of fold, or if you just open it like that, you can maybe just see a little bit of that rippling. Again, it's not discoloration or anything. It's almost just the light reflecting off of it. And so you can kind of see a little bit of that shimmer. The other thing that I don't really like is, despite the fact that we have a camera right here in tablet mode, I can never seem to get it to log in using my face in tablet mode. Now, if I have the phone closed like this, and I log in with my face here and open it, it goes into the tablet mode already logged in. So that's nice. But I wish that the camera here would also allow me to do the face scan to unlock the phone. So for whatever reason, I've got to either key in or use my finger to log in right there. The other thing that's probably a drawback, but I don't really need it, is that this does not support a stylus. So the Samsung I really liked because it supported a stylus. I think the other foldables maybe do. This one does not. It requires a different type of screen, maybe a more durable cover or something. It's not a big deal. I've kind of found that I don't need it. In fact, taking notes on a smaller tablet like this, even my iPad mini, I just have found it's not really worth it. The last thing is kind of a bigger one, just a little bit weird. It probably won't do it here, but it's not auto dimming, I think. For whatever reason, sometimes when I'm out in direct sunlight, it is very bright, it's very readable. You kind of get used to iPhones and iPads always kind of going to that max brightness and still being pretty readable in bright light. But what will happen here is it feels like there is a power drain somewhere. It seems like it's on 100% brightness, and then you'll just see it kind of step down one notch all of a sudden for whatever reason. Like something's overheating or it just can't draw enough power to keep the backlight on as bright or something. Because I've noticed that and it just goes a little bit dimmer. Your eye kind of catches it when it shifts down one level. And I go to the settings here to crank up the brightness manually, and I notice it's on 100% brightness. So there's nothing I can do. And then I will just use it and I'll notice that it will come back to full brightness. So I'm not sure if there's some sort of power drain or power bottleneck that won't keep the backlight on. It's not a really big usable deal, but it's just kind of jarring when you're reading something and it just looks a little bit dimmer, knowing that it can be a little bit brighter. So you can go days, weeks without doing it, and then you can just be out doing something one day and it'll do it 3 times in a row. I've never even actually been able to capture it on camera, so you just have to take my word for it. Don't know if anyone else has had that same problem, but it's just kind of one of those things. That is all the stuff right now that I love and hate about the Google Pixel Fold. And if you're wondering what my overall thoughts are, I love this thing. I think it's great. I actually hooked up a new number for this. I actually think that this is going to replace my iPhone. I've been a little slow about actually dropping my old iPhone, but I have been just kind of slowly doing the transition where any apps that I use on my iPhone, if they don't exist on Android, looking for an alternative. So the podcast app that I use on my iPhone, I have now replaced with another app. And so I'm just kind of slowly getting there where this will do everything, because it's really nice to be able to have a phone, and do all the same things that you would on a phone and have that tablet when you need it. So you can be more productive when you are opening this up, easier to read, easier to do a little work, easier to edit documents, read emails, watch videos, all of that stuff. So if you are looking for a really awesome phone, maybe the best foldable out there right now at an affordable price point, and it is spectacular. So if you are looking for one phone to replace your phone and even your tablet, I'll put a link to this in the description below, because right now I'm loving it. Peter Von Panda, out.